Okay, okay. Bienvenidos. Welcome to Her Journey the Latina Way. Today is a special day. Why? Because I'm relaunching what used to be Her Journey, Her Way from corporate to founder to Her Journey the Latina Way. So if you're joining us, I would love for you to make a comment. Let us know where you're joining from. And if you have any questions through the session, just make sure you ask the questions. So you may ask yourself why the change. So I'm a Latina from the heart. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. And for me, highlighting the stories of women like me who have gone through a lot of resiliency, have gone through growth journeys, and uh, have had their cultural part influence significantly on who we become and how we contribute to humanity, it's important. So after a full year of doing her way from corporate to founder, I finally made the decision. You know what? I think it's time to give back to the Latina community and showcase some amazing women who have gone above and beyond in their journey to overcome so many hurdles and become founders. So that's why this is something that is dear to my heart and it's very important. Now, this may be for you if you're looking to get inspired by this amazing woman. This may be for you if you are a Latina and are looking to take that bold step of launching your own business and you don't know how and you need that inspiration. Or you may not be a Latina, or you just may be looking at these Latinas for inspiration in general. I think there's, even though as a Latina, there's certain things that distinguish us. I think a lot of cultures can resonate with a lot of the stories that we will be sharing through this new journey. So, officially, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the revamped version called Her Journey the Latina Way. And today we have a special guest. But before I go to the special guest, I just want to introduce myself a little bit. And I want to invite all of you once again to let us know if this is going, where you're joining from. And I have a quick question in the chat right now. Is this going to be recorded? Yes. Cesar, this is actually being recorded. So you can actually watch it in LinkedIn, or you can actually watch it also in YouTube, and I believe also in Facebook. But yes, it's recorded. So, with that said, let me just quickly introduce myself. I am Brenda Liz. I am known as the expert of ending burnout now because, as someone that worked multiple leadership roles in the corporate world for 24 years and also launched my business, I watch it destroy people's life. I watch how people can get so consumed by the exhaustion and their dreams get crushed. So that's why I'm really passionate about this, because I lived it over and over and over and over in my career. So, an example of what I have achieved, I have helped multiple women experiencing mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion to feel energized and worthy while earning more money without sacrificing the things they love and becoming experts in their fields, but in different ways. Now, what am I up to? So, there's a whole bunch of things in the work. This is an exciting week for me. It's exciting because uh, I'm relaunching this. I'm here with you. It's exciting because I'm also gonna be launching my membership program for the helping people with foundational breathing techniques. The title coming soon, and it's exciting because I'm alive and it's November and we still have 2 months to go. So it's all about being here, supporting you guys in your journeys, and making sure that you, as well as us, have an amazing closing of the year and a beginning of 2025. So, with that said, I want to bring my special guest today. And her name is Gilda Alvarez. Here she
Hi.
is. I'm gonna introduce you very quickly. So today's episode is titled as "Surviving as a Latina in Tech," with over 20 years in enterprise IT for Fortune 500 companies. Hilda, do I say Hilda or Gilda?
Gilda.
Okay, Gilda has led database design, optimization, and cloud migrations for major organizations like IBM, Disney, and Deloitte. As CEO of Waveform Data Solutions and founder of Latinas in Data, she is dedicated to empowering Latinas in tech, a group that makes up to 1% of the workforce.
Mhm.
Small percent, but is like good percent. Hilda believes that diversity is getting invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance, and equality is being on the planning committee. Woo! Woo! That alone is spicy. I like it.
I'm also a salsa dancer, so
There you go. Bienvenida, bienvenida a Latina and her journey the Latina way.
thank
So
you so much. Muchas gracias.
I'm excited because I remember talking to you. Oh my God, it was a couple of months back.
Yes.
Because you guys might not believe this, but this program gets booked almost 6 months in advance, and I'm not kidding. It gets booked 4 to 6 months in advance. So right now, because of the relaunch, I'm revamping. But yes, normally in the next couple of weeks, I will be booked all the way until May, probably. So yes, it happens. So tell us a little bit more about you. Who is Hilda?
So I am from Ecuador. I came to the United States when I was 12. I fell in love with computing from my first computing class at age 12. And then I decided that that was going to be my journey. And I went to college and I majored in MIS and computer science. And I knew it was going to be a challenge because there weren't many, there weren't any people that looked like me. There were only three girls. And the way that the people that were with me going through the same projects, the way that they treated me was go get us coffee, go do something. It was something that I've never seen, but it wasn't something that I was like, scared of. One of the examples was and this is what happens in tech when you realize I was in a last exam project that we had for one of the computing classes, and the class was there were four guys, one, and I was the only girl. And as soon as the teacher would walk in, do something to the network, and then without letting us know, and then let us in the room, and we had to figure out what the problem was. And as soon as we walked in the room, they're like, "Gilda, go get us coffee." And that's when I was like, okay, let's see. So, but
Mm,
I actually did. I needed coffee, so I actually did go get some coffee. And then, but after before I left, I noticed like behind the desk there was an Ethernet cable that was unplugged, and I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out. So I left. I went to go get coffee. Came back. They still couldn't figure out. They were going and looking at the web pages. They were looking at it, doing all kinds of. And I just enjoyed myself watching them for 4 hours because we only had 4 hours to do this to figure it out. And then finally, like 15 minutes before the test was completed, I'm like, you guys, can I take a look at this? And then they let me in, and I plugged in the Ethernet cable, and we passed the exam. But that's just an example of how I knew my career was going to be. And people are going to get, many women will get, discouraged because that's not a way of treating you. But I don't care. I'm the kind of person that I really like what I do, so I'll do it anyways. So I continue my career. I graduated from UCF and I started working for IBM. I became a data professional out of accident because the technology that was right now at that time were the relational databases, and that landed in my lap, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Okay, great. I went to learn, and I learned how to do Oracle, SQL. I learned to do all kinds of technologies. And I was like, okay, time for me to, show the world what I do. And then I got laid off. See? So these are the things that women, and believe it or not, it was the blessing in disguise, because after I got laid off, I figured out that I was supposed to be making $25,000 more. So I was like, okay, great. I found a job right away. I didn't even, my worst regret was that I didn't take 2 weeks vacation, that I just started right after I got laid off. That was the worst regret. And I don't
The
do this.
recharging, the recharging.
Exactly. I was so afraid. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I'm an IBMer. They took the identity from me, because I worked for them for like 8 years. And this is something that you're gonna see a lot in tech. Actually, today I posted on my LinkedIn about how to survive in tech, basically. And the
Mhm.
situation is very, very difficult right now because of the economy and everything that's happening in the economy and how it's impacting, especially Latinas. We are somehow the scapegoat of all the projects. Okay, let's fire all the Latinas from here. And then you start seeing in your friends and your other people that that, oh, okay, I got laid off. Oh, I got laid off. And you're like, okay, how do I tell them that there is hope? You just have to do these things to survive. So I decided to write a book, Latina in Data, what my journey, how do I get there? What happens when you go through an avalanche? I call the avalanches when you go through layoffs because it happens,
It does happen. It does happen, and it's more common today than what it was maybe 20 years ago, but it's really common nowadays. I went through, oops, sorry, my computer, I just hit it. I went through I was layoff. I was part of one of those big restructurings in 2022, so I know what you're talking about.
In
I hear you.
2020, I got laid off again during the pandemic to be hired again from the same company 4 months later because now they had the money. But these are the things that will discourage many Latinas because we are so used to working and having that identity, and my everything depends on that job. Many times the providers of the whole home, because many Latinas are, I raised my daughter, I was a single mom, all these things that we go through. And I decided, let me write something that could help um, people that are in that journey. And it is something, to me, something that I already seen the track, and I try to see how other women can just jump on it. But it requires work and it requires building your skill set. The reason why I'm here and I can do my business is because I put a lot of time and effort in growing my technical skills. So what I do when I mentor and I help women is to sharpen your technical skills. I go
Mm.
through in my book. I go through all the careers in data, very specific because that's what I do. That's my domain. I could tell you cybersecurity, which is another great avenue, but I can only help you somehow. I know the programming languages. I know the technologies that go behind data science. So that's how I guide women. And this is what you have to do. You have to be part of a community. You have to volunteer in that community. You have to learn the new changes in the different things that are constantly changing. So it's continuous education, and that's the only way that I can draw them like a survival guide on how to survive, because it is inevitable. We are climbing a mountain, and it's gonna get hostile. It's gonna get very little oxygen as you reach higher and higher. The level of stress, right? What you do with burnout is gonna get higher and higher. You need to determine, you know what? I climbed enough. I think if I climb a little more, I'm gonna die. Okay, so you gotta listen to your body and say, you know what, maybe it's time for me to level here until my body adjusts, and then continue on. The
Or
only
get the support too, because
or get the support.
a lot of times what it takes is for you to work with someone to guide you and like help you overcome whatever that challenge is so you can move forward. So instead of taking steps back or holding your career for a period of time, work with someone that can actually
Correct,
just guide
correct,
you in the process and get you
correct.
moving más rápido, rapidito,
That's
rapidito.
why it's so important mentoring.
Absolutely.
One of my mentees, love her to death. I've been mentoring. Well, she's already a very successful professional. But when I started with her, we started with looking at your resume. I'm like, your skills can pay a little more, and they're like, really? Like, let me sharpen those skills. So it took me 3 or 4 months to get her up to speed, and then she was climbing 20, 25, 45, 100,000. These are the things that only people that have already the vision of what skills are paid can
Mhm.
help you and can guide you. So she now has, great, income financially. She cried. One day she called me and she was crying like, Gilda, I went to the toy store and my kids were able to get everything they wanted. And I didn't even have to look at the wallet because I knew I had money in the bank. And I'm like, that's the best reward you can get out of helping other people. And I got one friend for life. She's gonna be my friend forever, right? So
That's
these
very
are
powerful. The fact
the,
that you can help, that you've been able to change people's life because of that.
correct.
I
And
have a
I'm
question
very
for
happy.
you.
Hmm.
I have a question. So, when you were talking about women and Latinas and tech, right? There, you mentioned a couple of times the pay part, the pay portion, right? How would you say um it is today? Has the situation evolved over the
No.
years? Is it better, or is it still something that, like, Latinas in data get in tech get paid still way under?
Understand something. People are going to treat you how you allow them to treat you. Companies are going to pay you how you allow them to pay you.
Ooh,
You have
powerful.
to be able to negotiate. To negotiate, you have to know how much you're worth. All those things have to play a role. Many times Latinas don't know what they don't know. So you have to educate them and tell them these are the skills. And if you're not that good, maybe you need to practice here. Take this course, we'll test it, get certified. Listen, you are ready to go, and you should be getting paid this much. The problem we have with Latinas, especially in entry level, is that they stay for 15 years. I'm like, listen, you learn this, you learn that, you learn that. You cannot be an entry level. You need to be a mid level. You need to be advanced level by 15. What I try to do is I try to push them into a 3 year. These are the skills you need to learn in 3 years. Next, jump to the next 3 years, and you should easily jump from I'm talking about the East Florida area, starting out at 75K and be making 150K by the next 5 to 7 years. So
Mm.
and if you're in the California, I always tell them you need to be starting at 115 and be making 200K by the next 7 years. These are the things that once you have that line, nobody can bring it down or bring it up. This is how much you're getting paid. This is how much guys are getting paid. There was a point in time where I was getting paid more than guys, but because I knew how much I was worth. So I was like, okay, this is what my salary range is, and this is, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna pay you what you're worth. Okay.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that you need to bring ammunition whenever you're going to negotiate. You cannot feel like, okay, because you're giving me a job, okay, I'll just sit down and just take whatever. No, you can negotiate anything.
So,
Negotiate your vacations, negotiate if they can't bring the salary, negotiate other things.
so what do you think is the number one contributor for them to stay, like, not negotiate, or not, like, ask for what they're worth, or stay there in compliance? What
Lack
do
of
you think?
technical skills. Lack of
Mm,
technical skills brings you down. So
mm.
that's why continually ask them to get certified, to become AI, or to do data, or to learn SQL, or to learn how to do data visualization. I push them into technical skills because there's no discussion. Once you have your technical skills, you need to be paid what you're supposed to get paid.
Mm. That's nice. Okay, I have a couple of comments here. So, Cesar Alcantara says Latinas paved the way for what success looks like, and that is a reflection of unparalleled perseverance to the ambition of the heart and the soul of the Latinas, of how a Latina has come to be. Que Dios, Jesucristo y el Espíritu Santo les bendiga a todas las latinas con el esfuerzo de traer a sus hijos y crear la nueva generación for what really what success looks like. God bless all Latinas from all over the world. Beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
don't know. I
Beautiful.
don't think I know you directly, but thank you so much for sharing that. To be Latina is to be resilient, and this resonates within me to show how strong and how passionate I feel for Latina moms to embrace love for others, to be uplifting in a global complex environment. And then he also says mentor supports guidance. Then we have Brian King. There's a whole bunch of comments, which is good. Says, hello, this is the perfect way to end a long day. Gather around with friends. The Latino culture, there's zest for family, for cuisine. Oh my God, let's not get there.
Okay.
But their work ethics. I miss my time as an Amazon FedEx driver. So many nationalities in one weekend. Everyone dresses for their Sunday meal. Beautiful. Then Cesar says impacting others is priceless, and Damian says it's awesome. And then we have a couple of more comments. But yes, so I feel like we as Latina bring a lot to the table. That's my personal opinion. And I know you probably think similar. What would you say is the number one or two and two assets that Latina bring into tech?
I think women in general that have a plan, their life, they have a way of coordinating project management. They know how to use resources wisely. They bring a lot of logistics to an organization. That's nothing to do with technical. That's just a soft skill that comes with you because you have to raise kids, you have to take care of the house, you have to take care of the husband, you have to coordinate that in a 24-hour day. So what you do when you go to work is you have to coordinate many times your employees, my employees, we're like little kids. You're like, and you start seeing behaviors that should not be allowed, and you have to discipline, you need right away because you're not going to allow things. I saw so many things as a senior manager, as a project manager, as a manager, where had you not been a Latina, you would just people would have allowed many things, and that eventually creates a toxic culture for that organization. So that is something that Latina brings into the table.
Beautiful. So you were in tech. How did it go from being in tech, writing the book, and then becoming the founder of your organization that
So
you
it wasn't
live
a
in right now?
it wasn't a okay today. No, it was a process of uh, watching that you do something really good, and somebody said, you know what, I have this project for you, Gilda. Could you help me with this migration? And I'm like, okay. Then boom. So I started getting projects aside. So I would take, and it was not the Caribbean. So I was like, woohoo! Okay, pay trip to Puerto Rico to do a migration, pay trip to Jamaica to do this, pay trip to the Aruba, So you start doing little things on the side. You're like, I'm pretty good at this. Okay. So, but they continue to call you. I'm like, I have another one. And I'm like, I have another one. I'm like, I have to work. I have this really, really, big project that I need to, so you start having to say no, no, no. But then the pandemic hit, and I'm like getting laid off. I'm like, okay, that was it. That was a sign of God that this is where I needed to go. And since I already had that reputation and people knew in the community what I did, it was not that hard, right? So I started working full time in business, and and then they're like, "We'd like to hire you back." I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, you can. You know how? As a professional services, and I charge more now.
Exactly. Exactly. No, and you have a lot more control of your time. Before when you're working, you're literally there 24/7. When you work for yourself, those 24/7s are paid. So if you do work 24/7, you're paying 48
Yeah,
hours.
because you quote the hours. It's funny because I'm not from tech. I am from supply chain. My whole career was in supply chain, and I feel like a lot of the same challenges that you experience in tech as a Latina professional, we experience in supply chain, which is a
No,
male dominated environment. So yeah, like I would joke with my husband, I'm down to a quarter an hour because you're exempt, you don't get paid extra
yeah.
time. And then, like, even if you have a really good salary, by the time it was my internal joke with my husband. I'm down to 25 cents an hour this week because of the amount of hours you end up piling.
You
Um,
become more cognizant of your time. You're like, this is how much I'm worth an hour. Even with projects that you're like, this is gonna take me 2 hours. This is, but to be able to take 2 hours took 25 years of experience, right? So you're gonna get charged for this.
yeah,
And
you'll do
so,
it in 2 hours. Probably someone newer might do it in 5 hours. So, yeah,
correct, correct.
it
Yeah, so
comes with a
you
price.
start learning how to sell yourself in your time, because that's eventually how you're gonna, as a consultant for my business, that's how much I charge, right? So hourly charge, sometimes per project, depending, because sometimes they don't really know what they want, especially when it's data and AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, let me see what I can do, try to give them an estimate. It's not as easy because there's so many components in data and AI. But yeah, the first thing you have to know, that if you're going to start your own business, if this is your survival guide for surviving tech, you have to be an expert in your field. Once you have that, starting a business is probably the cheapest, $150. There you go, you start your own business. Now, the hardest part, and the reason why it wasn't that difficult for me, is that I already had built a reputation, and people knew me. Not only knew me as the Latina, they knew me for my skills. So it was not so hard to start jumping on projects. Could I scale a lot more? And I've done that when I hire people from Latin America. I do, that's fine. But the more I grow, the more stress I generate for myself. So I'm the kind of person that I have that limit. Okay, when my body is not good, it doesn't matter how much more money you make, it's not worth it, because at the end of the day, is your health is your wealth. So my wealth, if my body is okay, I'm okay. So
Mm,
that's why I
beautiful.
need to have relaxation. I need to have my time off. I need to have very good night's sleep. Not many CEOs can say that they sleep 8 hours. I sleep very well. And so these are the things that I try to push, like the people that I've mentored that have become CEOs and they have their own business. Sometimes they have a lot of stress, and it breaks my heart, because I feel like I injected them a drive to continue to want to grow. But when I start seeing their health and their family being impacted, it hurts me. And
Mm-hmm.
there's unfortunately nothing I can do. I can only give you the bicycle. You run it as fast as you can. And that's a life lesson, because that's how I learn to cope, because I've been in this for 25 years. I know when my body ran out and said, this is it, no more. So we learn and we adjust because of the experience. So we have to let them fall and then continue.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I can go on a path on burnout, but this is not to showcase me. This is to showcase Hilda. Anyway, so Cesar has a couple of questions. So I'm gonna bring the first one in. He says, "How can a Latina navigate and pave the way through all kinds of things and ensure that things are being coordinated in a prioritization to build scalability?" You are using big words for me today. Cesar.
So priorities, okay, family, health, those things are intangible, that you can't put, one of the first things that I tell my mentees is your savings. Have your emergency savings. Why is your emergency savings so important? Because that gives you the power to bring your priorities, because your priorities are not the corporation's priorities. Your priorities are here, your corporation's priorities are there, and you need to like try to meet with them. And then when you are ready to walk out, you're bringing all these assets, to intellectual assets, to the organization. The organization say, you know what, we can let you go for a few days, we can let you do this, you can negotiate. But why can you negotiate? Because you have that cushion, you have that. I'm like, I can't take this, I gotta go. when you say you got to go, companies are like, okay, what do we do for Gilda so that she look and say, what do we do? These are the things you need to build that strategy. You always have to have an exit strategy. That's the first thing you have to know, right? So your priorities, their priorities, you try to find that middle ground, and that's the only way things work. It's like a marriage.
It's
It's
a
like a
dance. It's a
commitment.
dance.
A
It's a
dance,
dance. It's a
correct.
dance. Yes. Okay. So the next question, can you tell us the name of the book? And I was gonna actually say we should actually put it in the comments when the
Latina
event
in
finishes.
data, navigating the tech terrain, a survival guide. And I do that survival guide because I've been doing survival guides forever. Since I started in tech, how to survive as a woman in tech, how to survive the digital transformation, how to survive the tech layoffs. I just put it in my podcast. All these are detailed guides on how to survive. But many of the survival kits are psychological. These are psychological things that I had to, because I started when I was 21. I was a very young consultant. All these things nobody teach you. You have to go through all of them and learn from them. So I had to write it down so that people can actually not have to go through the same problems that I went through when I started in tech.
Awesome. So the next question is, can you describe to us how was the struggle coming from Ecuador and building your brand to where you are today?
So the struggles from Ecuador, one of the things that I'm very thankful to being in this country is that I don't think I could have grown the way I did in my country as I did here. I had a lot of opportunities, scholarships, everything so that I can become a professional. So I took advantage of everything that came my way. I and I decided to pick STEM as my career because I happen to like that. I love math, I love chemistry, I love physics. Those, had I not been a data engineer, I probably would have been a civil engineer or a I don't know, some kind of engineer. The engineer mind is a very specific mind. We solve problems. That's what we do. So that's something you bring to the table as a STEM person. If you know how to solve problems, this is your place. And the reason why I'm still here, because you have to think, if I didn't like what I do, I wouldn't be here. I would probably start a
Absolutely.
business, I don't know, selling clothes. I don't know. This is something I enjoy doing, going and looking at problems. I love calculus, right? So calculus to me was fun, right? These are the things that I enjoy and why I'm still here. And Ecuador, I love math and everything, but it was here that I was able to be able to go to a STEM field without problems.
Do you go back to Ecuador a lot?
Not much, not much. My grandmother passed away 2015, and it's just been kind of like it was kind of like what was holding me close to Ecuador. And everything I know and what I do today is a legacy of her, because she was a mestizo woman that at the early age of 9, she inherited land. Her father passed away, and they asked her if she wanted to have an education or if she wanted the land, because she could have used the land to go get an education, but it was impossible for a mestizo woman to be educated at that time.
So explain to the people in the audience who don't know Spanish what mestizo means.
Okay, so when the Spaniards came to Latin America, they mixed with the Indians, the indigenous people, and the offsprings were called mestizos. And it was usually the son of the landowner or the daughter of the landowner. They give him a little house and they would live there. But it happened to be that that was the only daughter, and the land that she lived in is the one she inherited. When my
Mm.
grandmother noticed the difference of educated people and non-educated people, she knew that education was the answer for poverty. And so she decided that all
Ooh.
her kids, 10 of them, were going to be educated in universities. And that was unheard of because everybody would think she was crazy. I'm like, Why? They need to be in the land. They need to be doing the land work. And she's like, no, no, all my kids are going to be educated. And
She was a
she
visionary.
was a visionary. She was a
Oh
visionary.
my
So all
goodness.
her kids, even facing the death of my the youngest daughter, that she was one of the victims of a serial killer because she was going and getting her education. It was she died when she heard of the news, but she knew that what she did for the other nine kids, which is to send them to the universities and for them to become professional, was the only answer for poverty and coming out of poverty. Today, when I talk about Latinas in data and when I talk about data and AI, it's her talking through me, telling you guys that the landscape is changing. Education is the only survival kit for the next 5 years when we have artificial intelligence taking over so many jobs. So I feel like she is, through me, the same visionary today.
Hmm. We have here Amervis saying, Gracias a Dios for such a powerful legacy your grandmother left. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the fact that she had that vision, like she could see beyond what the everybody else would do. She would challenge that status. I think that's really important. And how do you think that influence you have become
It
today?
influenced everybody. So it influenced my mother, who my aunts and their kids. So all of them became professionals, and the next generation becomes education becomes an answer, and getting the best of the best education out there. That's something that they don't. That's where their priorities are, right? When you talk about priorities, your education and your kids' education is the next step, right? Your emergency fund and education is the next step, right? For the survival.
Hmm.
And so it needs to be prioritized. Many people don't prioritize education and they learn later that they should have done that. And it's a matter of knowing what your priorities are.
Yep, yep, yep. We have a couple of more questions from Cesar. So I'm just gonna grab a couple of them here on random. So what do you look for to make the informal decision in order to have a meeting of the minds in order to challenge organizations to pay what you deserve to be paid?
It's not hard. When you know a professional skill that is paid from this range to that range, if you bring more experience, you're higher on that range. You negotiate the highest part. When you know you're not so good, you're like, or you're entry level, you start with the entry level. You have no choice. If you know you have learned something, you go in the middle. It's simple. You know, you have a range, and many in LinkedIn, or they said from 120 to 200, 120 to 200. That's just your range, right? Yes, that's how you would make as a senior. That's how you would make as an entry level. So yeah, so you have ammunition, you have data that can support that.
So do you feel that with the transparency that exists today, although I say transparency in quotes, and I'll explain why, that exists today, with the pay, like LinkedIn and all these places publishing people's salaries, like the range, do you think that is actually helping people negotiate better, or
Yes,
do you think
it
that's still
has.
an opportunity?
It has helped, and this is new. This is nothing. When I was laid off the first time, it was shocking to know, because you have to understand these companies are always looking to save money. Right? In your ignorance, it's just another ammunition for them to continue with the cycle. It is not personal. Trust me, it's not personal. If you're willing to take it, I'm willing to pay you that, right? So that's why it starts with you. It starts with you asking what you are worth.
Mm-hmm. So I also feel like, and this is like something that when lost my job in 2022, and I was gonna go, I went back to the market to find a job in corporate. A lot of the experts were saying, you always, when they ask you how much you want to get paid, you always ask them questions back so you can kind of sense what is that you really want to provide, right? Do you think that that is still like the transparency in salaries is so much that you don't need to ask how much they're willing to pay? Or do you feel that that's something that still needs to be addressed in the process of the interview? Can that change? Can what they put in the internet be different than what they, yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I've heard stories. I've seen everything. They change. They're like, sorry, we're gonna have to go a little lower, and you're like, they trying to see your desperation, your level of desperation, so that they can pay less. Like I had this kid. I call him kid because he was very young. When I started mentoring him, he was 25, and he was making 48K. And she's like, Gilda, I can't. I asked to make 55, and they said no because I didn't have a college degree. And I'm like, give me that resume. I'm going to show you how much you're worth. And then he was like, really? I'm like, do you trust me? And he's like, yes. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to quit. And he's like, I'm quitting one of the biggest firms. And I'm like, yeah, it served its purpose. It's time to go. You trust me? And he's like, okay, all right. So we went and he applied for 3 companies. He got 70 on the first one. I'm like, that's not it. And he's like, what? I'm like, that's more than what I make. I'm like, that's not it. Second interview, he went 85. Third interview, he got an offer for 90. And I was like, it was a Friday. I'm like, don't answer. Just wait until Monday. He's like, really? Oh my God. I'm about to,
He
I'm about
probably was
to
having a heart attack. Yes.
I don't think he slept that whole weekend. He trusted me. And then on Monday, he texted me like, Gilda, I just got a message. This says 95,000 and we cannot go any further. And he was jumping on one leg. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you.
So
But
you
that's how
took
much
him
you're
from
worth.
what, 70 to 95?
He went from 48 to 95. But
Was
that's how little he knew how much he was worth. That was
almost
like, oh
double.
my
Mm-hmm.
God. Now he makes over 1 million, but that's because he started his own business, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he did the heavy lifting. He had so many companies working at one time. Like, so I'm paying so much in taxes. I don't know that. I'm not a CPA. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Let me send you to my CPA. So, but yeah, you
So
have to have somebody that can guide you to what you're worth. Don't trust me. That is the best thing you could ever do for yourself is have a mentor that can guide you.
but I think you said something that for me I think is the key behind all of this. It's you need to have the skills, you need to have the capability and the
Yes.
capacity to do it, right?
Yes.
I see a lot of professionals going very fast and very furious, and at the end of the day selling themselves very well, and then they start to struggle because they went so fast that their skills didn't catch up with the
Yes.
speed of the change that they were experiencing. So I think
Very
it's
common.
important in this to highlight that yes, you can fight for what you think your value is, but it's not about what you think, it's about what you can show them too that
Correct.
your value is. So,
Correct. Correct.
and I see this a lot. The reason why I want to bring this forward, because I think this is really important, because in the coaching world, this is very normal. You see a lot of people charging a lot of money from the beginning, and they haven't caught up their skills to the value that they're selling, right? And I think it's important that, yes, we represent ourselves honestly, and that what we can give the people the value of what we're being getting
Correct.
paid for, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so I there's a couple of other questions here around like what you cover in the book or not. I'm just gonna leave those so you can come back to the
Okay.
recording and you can answer them directly in the recording, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
um I just wanted to talk a little bit about change the dynamic a little bit, and talk a little bit about the support you provide for women in leadership, sorry, in data, and how big and passionate this is for you, and what are you doing now about it?
So this started during the pandemic. Oh my God. I can't, I mean, it broke my heart. I was laid off, but I had my side job. but so many Latinas were impacted. So many. It was heartbreaking. But also, so many Latinas were starting their own business and were growing. It was a nice thing to see because sometimes you just need the little push.
Hmm.
So hold on one second. I'm gonna put in here the link to the book so that if people are interested, they can just join. Sorry, what was the question
Perfect.
again? Okay.
So I don't even. No, we were talking about like your passion
Okay.
of
So yeah, so
of
I started
supporting
during
it.
the pandemic, and what I do is I just go through the same thing I went through my friend. How much you're making. Let me show you. Tell me what you know, and I tell you what you're worth. I call the session. So I go through all the technical skills. Part of the book, right, in the section 52 is going through the technical skills. Okay,
Hmm.
this is what you need to know, and it goes through the the easy to moderate to difficult, because everybody's trying to sell you this. Everybody's going to be AI engineer, AI, ML. And do you know how many skills these people have? Do you know how long it takes for them to get those skills? Do you know how good they have to be to make what they make? No, nobody tells you those things. So people are so ignorant and they just jump into 6 month or 6 weeks boot camp to become AI. I'm like, oh Lord, how many more people are gonna fall into this? So I try to guide them so that they are not, what is that smoke? They're not being sold, something that is not worth anything.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like how I guide them. I go through how much you're worth. Let me see your resume. Let's change your resume a little bit here. Let's do this. You need to study for that certification. You need to pass that certification, and that's how I mentor them. And it's something that it has. I've done over 30 mentees this year, and over maybe 56 to 60 hours this year. It's nice because when I started in during the pandemic, maybe six women reached out. I'm like, what is data science? And I'm like, oh Lord. Okay. So now, for some reason, in the last year, it's just exponentially. More women are trying to look for careers in data. They want to learn. So I've been able to help so many more now. And this is
Cool.
something I do for free. I'm not charging. What I try to do with many of these women is try to instill in them the pay it forward mentality, because I'm going to help you
Ooh.
eventually and you're going to become this amazing data. And then we, the community of data professionals, need your volunteering help to help others, right? This is how we
Absolutely.
lift, and we lift others, because it's not nice to go up there and be by yourself. Trust me, it's not nice. You're like, okay, time to go down, start pulling more people, more Latinas, and
Hmm.
tell them that it's not impossible. Yes, it's not easy, but it is worth it.
Perfect. So we have one last question from Cesar that he says, can you give us an example where you had to make a difficult decision that impacted an organization's model and was able to attain sustainability through mitigating risk and still being relevant through staying abreast with the risk that are upcoming as a day by day basis to build out a legacy for your kids? Very
Wow,
packed question.
that's a very long question.
I'm gonna put it there. It's a very packed question. So I would say, can you give an example of where you had to make a difficult decision that impacted basically the organization model?
I
And
I fortunately I have not had to make that decision where an organizational model has impacted. I would say I've contributed to organizational culture, which in a way it has helped the organization. When I joined Deloitte back in 2015, I noticed that there were no Latinas. There was nobody. And we're like, okay, listen, there's so many data professionals, and I'm gonna go find me some Latinas in Puerto Rico. And so one of the things that I did is travel to
okay,
Latin America.
repeat that again. Where did you find the Latinas?
And amazing technical brains. I went to Puerto
In
Rico, and I
Mayagüez, Mayagüez, Puerto
Maya
Rico.
was very smart, very, very bright. She now works for Deloitte too, and she does. There's a manager, does an amazing job. But I had to go and find these amazing women that could bring that talent in, and I think that was the beginning of understanding that there was a lot of talent in the Latino community. So I started the Latinos or ERGs. So I started getting more Latinas and more people from Central Florida. And it was, Alpha was like, oh my God, why don't you be part of the committee for Alpha? And I was like, okay. The thing is that I need technical people. And I couldn't find them in Alpha, but I brought the technical people to Alpha so that they could have technical people in their organization. So yeah, so it impacted in a way so that we can build community. That's something that I know. That's how you. The reason why I'm here is because of community. Is because of people like me that handed me a query or a trick on how to do something, that showed me how to do something, that I was able to grow as a technical professional.
That
So
took the time. That took the time to
they
actually
took the
help you.
time. So I realized this is the way to do it. We build a community. It's like, that saying, it takes a village. Well, for Latinas, because we are so few, we are the 1%, it will take a community, but it will take a community that is concerned about growing your technical skills. Do not be glamored by these people that tell you, yeah, yeah, you're gonna do this and you're gonna become this. I'm like, if you don't have the foundation of your technical skills, you're only going to get somewhere and then you're going to fall. So that's why you have to constantly learn and continue to grow technically.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. So I think Ameris has a really good question that I want to bring forward before we kind of like start wrapping things around. So she's saying, when I am asked by others, um, what career should a Latina go into? I say AI, cyber, and data scientist because there's not enough of us. Can you
Yes.
offer feedback on how they can break into data that I can share with others who ask?
It, so data and AI is what I do. Cyber, I don't. But one of the things that is happening with cyber and data is that they're mixing. Splunk being one of those amazing, in the languages that you're speaking with Splunk is similar, you have to understand a little bit about query language to understand something as a technology like Splunk. But these skills will marry, and they will marry why? Because the foundation for computing, the foundation of tech is data and AI. Okay, this is not an industry. Data and AI is not, okay, I'm gonna go data and AI. No, no, no. Data and AI is the foundation. From there, you're gonna become a business analyst, a data analyst, a cyber analyst, a data analyst, a data analyst. But what do all those analysts have in common? They know how to use data in AI. Because what happens with AI is AI came as a tool, because there's a level of intelligence you have to use. It's amazing. You no longer need to write this query that would took you 4 hours. You just ask AI to do it for you, right? So you have to learn the tools so that you can survive in the new landscape. This is an industry. This is not just a trend. Data and AI is the industry 4.0. If you remember, industry 1.0 is the steam power. When the steam power came, it revolutionized everything, right? Electricity came and it was like, wow. Then came the computing industry. What was all this doing? It was building the platform for data and AI to become the future. Now we're in the future. There's millions of jobs that are going to be lost in the next 5 years. And it is up to us to think that we can use AI as a tool, or we can use AI to destroy us, because it can do both. It's not the person that's going to take your job, is not going to be AI. It's going to be another person that knows how to use AI.
Yeah, there's gonna be the way I describe it to my daughter. There's still gonna be needs of job. It's just gonna look different. The
Correct.
requirements, the skills, the capabilities that you have are gonna look different. Because, and even think about a business owner nowadays, right? I want to bring it back to coaches, right?
Yes.
So 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a coach could make really good money, right? Just by networking and getting people through network. Now, because everything gets more diluted, you have to look for ways in which you can actually become more efficient, so you can actually expand faster, right? Because of the way the world is moving. So AI becomes that additional support for your business. And it's not, and that you'll see that a lot of the coaches that are going to thrive in the future are coaches who are using AI in an efficient way, not replacing them or replacing people in general, but like they're using AI to move things faster.
But not only coaching, marketing, finance.
Everything.
Uh, this book, I wrote it in 10 hours and it was all AI facilitated. Okay. My website took me 4 hours. I no longer needed a whole department to start my company. It is now everything that I can tell. My posts on LinkedIn, they're all generated by AI. Of course, you have to guide it. Like the podcast that I just put in about the how to survive tech layoffs. It was four very important sources that were going and picking all this information. And at the end of those sources, I give the answers on how to survive. But all that is documented and it's real. So you're feeding AI facts because that's the problem with AI. It hallucinates. So when you feed facts, you drive. It's like a little kid. You're like, no, 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 no. You need to do this. And then it learns. It'll take some time. I'm not saying it's
Mhm.
perfect, but it's pretty good. It facilitated my whole business and my whole branding and all that stuff.
Yep. It's been 56 minutes. I can't believe. Can you believe that we've been talking for almost an hour?
I know, I know.
Ah,
Thank you so much
it
for the
just goes by
opportunity.
so fast. And I think there are people that are that there's a lot. There might be some questions that Gilda may not have been able to answer here. She'll take a look, and if she can respond back to you, then definitely she will. Now, I'm very grateful. I am so grateful that you were here and did you share a very different perspective. Not I bring a lot of the people I bring into this space in the past have been coaches, and I think you bring a very different type
I
of
coach. I
background
also
and
coach. I'm a technical coach.
yeah,
So
but it's
I don't.
different. It's
I
different.
am
You're
very
back.
like. I'm like book
There you.
right
Yes.
here. I'm a technical coach. I used to be a calculus tutor. Right when I was in college,
Mathematics.
they would come to me because they could learn something. I divide it in pieces and learn how to do it. I love doing that. Now, how to do whatever they need to do, I don't know. All I know is how to fix problems. That's all I know how to do. So
Anyway, so I'm really appreciative of you being here. I wanna like if people wanna connect with you, do you have anything coming up soon where people might be interested in joining, or how do people connect with you?
So I have a website, Latinas in Data, where I do mentoring. You can sign up for mentoring. And in February, we're going to do a Power Platform Bootcamp, which is for people that are wanting to come into tech and wanting to learn of the tools that they can use, how to use AI, how to use Copilot, how to use all these tools that are out there. And we do this here in Orlando. And but I also push them virtually so that they can do and help people all over the
So,
United
so
States.
is it gonna be in person in February in
It's going to
Orlando?
be in person and virtual, both.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I do that.
Cool.
And the only sad thing is that only 6 Latinas joined last time, including me. And but we're still going to do it because we're building community. Remember, we're building community. When the community is, the people will come, right? When they're ready. When the math, the student is ready, the teacher
But
will come.
I would say I would encourage you to, if you have information on that, let's
It's just
just.
it's just starting. It like literally just
Mm,
started last week.
okay, cool.
Because it's all this has to be proved through Microsoft and through all the the sponsors and all that stuff. So
Okay, that's kind of cool. Cesar is asking, can Latinos join?
anybody that wants to learn, you just have to have ganas to learn. That's it. That's all. That's all the requirement. Doesn't have to be specific Latinos or anything. Just want to learn.
That's actually kind of cool. Okay, with that said, I invite all of you to connect with Gilda if you haven't done so. If this is a topic that interests you and you want to be on top of it, just follow her in LinkedIn and be aware of whatever she posts and when she posted. With that said, I'm so grateful that you were here.
Thank you.
Final words for the audience, just quick final words.
How to survive. You know, the things that I mentioned was your emergency fund, prioritize your education,
Mhm.
build habits of constantly learning because this is the future. You are going to be a student for life. It is simple things. You can learn online on YouTube, have somebody to guide you, what steps to follow, and just learn. 10, 15 minutes a day can change your life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. 10, 15 minutes a day. So this is close to the concept of 1%. Change 1% and
Oh,
you change your life. So,
that 1% of Latinas in data, what I tell you is that if I can see that 1% to grow to 2, then I can retire. But I still haven't seen. I think we're point 0.9 now. Okay, let's bring more.
so, so how does it go? How many women are in tech? Do you
Probably
know?
8 to 9% women in tech.
So out of the
Oh, in
8% or
tech,
9, uh-huh.
women in general, 20, 27, 30%.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it has
no,
grown.
it has grown. And I'm assuming there's a lot of people from overseas in tech, women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's specifically in data professions because it's such a small percentage. We are just 1%.
Okay. Awesome. So, everybody, once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being all the way until 1 hour and 1 minute. I send you lots of love. It was my launch of her journey, the Latina Way. I think today was a great way to start this, even though last week I did interview a Latina and I made last week or the week before and made the announcement for today. I want to see you all and stay tuned for all the great things that are coming your way this week from BA Coaching and Consulting. With
Thank
that
you.
said, mwah, lots of love.
Bye bye.